Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jumana Silian Saba. I am with the City of Los Angeles Human Relations Commission. I'd like to also acknowledge the presence of Deputy Chief Michael Downing with LAPD, as well as Harun Azar with Department of Homeland Security Strategic Community Engagement. This morning is about our communities coming together to speak out against hate. His Grace Bishop Serapion and Dr. Maher Hattout have been working together and met last week to discuss their respective communities and to discuss best ways that we here in Los Angeles can collectively stand together. The City of Human Relations Commission have worked with both of our communities to make today possible. I'd like to first introduce Marianne Bechet with the Los Angeles Diocese for the Coptic Churches.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today His Grace Bishop Serapion, spelled S-E-R-A-P-I-O-N, Bishop of the Coptic Orthodox Christian Diocese of Los Angeles, Southern California, and Hawaii. By way of just a brief background, the Coptic Church was established in the 1st century in Egypt by St. Mark, the writer of one of the Christian Gospels. The first church was established here in Los Angeles in 1969, and His Grace was enthroned on the Diocese of Los Angeles in 1995. Today there are 14,000 families that are served by the Coptic churches, 50 priests, and 32 churches in the greater Los Angeles area. His Grace Bishop Serapion will be speaking now. Thank you.
Good morning. I am pleased to first read the joint statement which we agreed to issue together, Dr. Hattout and myself. I will read it in English and give a summary in Arabic. We collectively condemn discretion directed at any religion, namely the anti-Muslim film Innocence of Muslims. We strongly reject any humiliation or ridicule directed at the tenets or the respected figures of any religion. Secondly, we strongly condemn any and all voluntary action and the loss of innocent lives. Along with our nation, we mourn the death of the U.S. ambassador to Libya and his staff and offer our heartfelt condolences to their families. Thirdly, we condemn any attacks against religious communities, Coptic or Muslim in particular, both in Egypt and the United States. Harming one another serves only to escalate tensions and hatred among our communities. Living in the United States and inspired by its values, we are capable of a more reasonable approach that living in a free society demands of us. Further, we cannot allow the action of a few deceived, fanatical individuals to define our communities. Those individuals are responsible for their deepest actions, which cannot be reflective of the respectable communities they claim to be members of. Responding with violence only serves to continue the hate rather than taking positive steps to start the healing process. We are strongly committed to respectful dialogue to bring about understanding and peace. We call in members of both religions to lean on our faith to counter the hate and violence with good speech and positive work. That's why we are here together today. That is why we are here together today. Our communities must continue to strive and take reasonable and practical steps to allow healing to begin. نحن ندين هذا الفيلم المسيء الذي أساء لمشاعرنا جميعا، وخاصة أنه يمس مشاعر إخوتنا المسلمين الذين تربطنا بهم كل علاقات المحبة، حيث نحن عشنا معا وتجمعنا بهم صداقة ومحبة. ونرى أن هذا العمل لا يخدم أحد بل يضر الجميع. ونرى أيضا أنه ضد تعاليم المسيحية وضد تعاليم كنيستنا. فالمسيحية تعلم المحبة، وترى أن المحبة لا تسقط أبدا، والمحبة هي التي تبني. وأيضا تعلم ألا يواجه الشر بالشر، كما قال الكتاب المقدس: لا يغلبنك الشر بل اغلب الشر بالخير. لذلك نحن أيضا نرفض أي عمل فيه عنف كردا. نقدر المشاعر والآلام التي سببها هذا الفيلم، لكن نحن نأمل أن نحن جميعا نتعاون أن نواجه مثل هذه الأمور بروح التعاون والحديث المتبادل بيننا وبين بعض. ونحن أيضا ندين أي اعتداءات تحدث على أي مجموعة بسبب هذا الفيلم أو بهذه المشاعر، خاصة ضد المسيحيين الأقباط أو المسلمين، سواء هنا في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية أو في مصر أو في أي بلد أخرى من العالم. ونحن اجتمعنا معا لكي نعمل معا ونتعاون ونستمد من المجتمع الذي نعيش فيه هنا في أمريكا روح التعاون والاهتمام أن احنا نبني معا، لأن هذا هو الطريق السليم لمواجهة مثل هذه المشكلات. نتمنى أنه تتحول هذه الأزمة إلى خير فيه نتعاون معا، ولا نسمح لأن بعض المتطرفين الذين لهم فكرهم الخاصة أن هم يحددوا ما نقوم به. وأيضا نرفض أن أي مجموعة تحمل على مسؤولية بعض الأفراد الذين تصرفوا خطأ. فنحن هنا كأقباط في أمريكا نرفض هذا العمل، ونرفض أيضا تحميل مسؤولية مثل هذا العمل على الأقباط، حتى لو ثبت أن في بعض الأفراد الذين لهم فكرهم الخاص أن قاموا بهذا العمل. نتمنى السلام للعالم كله ولأمريكا ولمصر، وشكرا.
Our next speaker is Edina Lovic with the Muslim Public Affairs.
I'd like to thank you all for covering this important press conference. My name is Edina Lekovich, and I'm the Director of Policy and Programming at MPAC. My main function here is to introduce Dr. Hathout. I just want to give you 30 seconds of background that's important though. Many media have been reporting that this is the first time that Muslim and Coptic leaders are meeting. The truth is that they have met on several occasions over the years, and the most recent time was when the Egyptian Coptic Church was bombed in Egypt last New Year's Day in 2011, I believe. So this is not the first time, but this is a continuation, and this is the first time that they are coming out together on a public stage in order to stand together against hate. And I want to thank the city of Los Angeles and Jumana for helping make that possible and helping us be here today. Having said that, I want to introduce Dr. Maher Hathout. M is in Mary, A-H-E-R is in Robert, Hathout is H-A-T-H-O-U-T. Dr. Maher Hathout is an internationally recognized Islamic leader, and he is the former chairman of the Islamic Shura Council of Southern California, which is the umbrella body of over 70 mosques and Islamic organizations throughout everything south of Santa Barbara. He is also the author of several books and the former chairman of the Islamic Center of Southern California and the current senior advisor to the Muslim Public Affairs Council, Dr. Maher Hathout.
In the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful, thank you all, and thank you, Bishop, and thank you, church members, for being with us on that day. We came, as the Bishop said, I don't think that I'll say anything new for 3 reasons. Number one is to offer condolences to the families of the victims of the senseless violence that took place as a reaction to the ugly and insulting so-called movie. There should have been no bloodshed. As a matter of fact, there should have been no reaction to such a insignificant production. Number two, we are here also to condemn putting prejudice and hate in a piece of production to insult certain group parasiting on the noble concept of freedom of speech. This is hate speech, and it is instigation kind of speech. Nonetheless, people talk, and if we don't like what they say, we go to the teachings of our Prophet, peace be upon him. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. When an ignorant person targets you, say peace and leave. These are the teachings that will be more honoring if you follow to the name of the Prophet Muhammad, rather than getting into a frenzy that causes the loss of life and the loss of property. The third reason that we came here is to declare in no ambiguous terms that we are totally against mass labeling of a group of people because of the action of some people who claim belonging to that group. And exactly like we felt very upset when somebody does a terrorist act and they say Muslims, we will be very upset if somebody produces a movie and we say Copts. Those are neither Muslims nor Copts. Those are people who are psychologically diseased, with hearts full of hate and minds full of ignorance. And our job together is to leave no room for these voices to manipulate and to take over the arena, and they become the voice that is heard. The voice that deserves to be heard is our voice here, the collective voice of people of faith. And I am sure that from now on we'll see more closeness between the Coptic community and the Muslim community in Los Angeles. And if I focus on Egypt in particular, we, the Copts and the Muslims who are of Egyptian origin, will never allow the glory of our country and our history to be abused and misused by a bunch of people for their psychological disease. I'll say the gist of what I said in Arabic in case there is an Arabic media. أتينا هنا لأغراض محدودة. أولا واجب العزاء لفقدان أرواح أسبغ الله عليها تكريمه، وأكد الإسلام حمايتها كأنفس مستأمنة تقوم بواجب السفارة التي حماها الإسلام حتى في حالات الحرب. ثانيا نشجب السلوك الهمجي العنيف الذي سيق البعض إليه وزين لهم وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا، أنهم يدافعون بذلك عن النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام، والنبي لا يحتاج دفاعهم. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أتى ليعلم وليرشد، وإذا أردنا أن نحترم اسمه وذكره فلنتبع تعاليمه وإرشاده. ثالثا نحذر من التعميم المخل الذي عانينا منه حين ظن بنا بعض الإرهاب لأن منا بعض الإرهابيين. هذا التعميم غير مقبول، وأنا لا أحب أن أسمع كلمة الأقباط ولا كلمة أقباط المهجر لأن هذه مقدمة للعدوان، وأحسب أننا يجب أن نختلعها من جذورها، لا ننتظر حتى تحدث مصيبة أخرى فنجتمع مرة ثانية. هذا المنطق، منطق جمع كل المجموع بسبب جريمة بعض المجرمين، هو مرفوض إسلاميا ومرفوض مسيحيا. والإسلام يقول: ادفع بالتي هي أحسن السيئة، فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. وأنا أدعو الله سبحانه أن ينير عقولنا بنوره وأن يؤنس قلوبنا بمحبته، والله المستعان.
At this point, we'll open it up for questions, and we'll try to do this in an orderly fashion. So, and please direct your question to who you'd like. We'll take you down in the front first.
Here in Los Angeles, we haven't heard even any threat coming to us. I'm not sure, because in Egypt I don't have a full picture about what's going in Egypt now, but yeah, I think that is they are by the church, by giving a statement by the Holy Synod and many church leaders to show very clearly that is the church is against this action, and hopefully nothing to happen against the Christian. But I haven't heard any specific incident occurred because of this film.
What kinds of concerns are members of the Coptic community expressing to you?
Here?
Yes.
Of course, some of them, they are concerned main reaction happen against him here in the United States. But we thank God that is our relationship with the Muslim community in Southern California is a good relationship. And in other events which happen, they come and express their support and feelings. And these initiatives which we started which is actually came from Dr. Maher Hathout. He asked that is we meet, and he came generously. He came and visited me and expressed his condemnation of any violent action against the Coptic community here. And as we also strongly condemn this movie, and we find there is no justification whatsoever, that is to do such kind of movie. As he also mentioned, there is no justification to retaliate or attack the Coptic community. So far there is a concern, but we thank God that there is no actual thing, and hopefully by our action together to give a message to the communities, the Muslims and the Christian community, that is the right way to respond to such kind of events is to come together, to dialogue, and to overcome such kind of tension which unfortunately existing because of some events happening.
Do you have any personal concerns, given the connection we have in Mr. Nicola had to the Southern California project?
I have no connection with Mr. Nicola, except that is after his name surfaced, he called me. I didn't know him personally. Even when the name came to me, I didn't know whether this name among the Coptic community or not, because as we mentioned, I have 14,000 families, so I don't remember, of course, I don't know all of them. So when he called and introduced himself in the telephone, of course he said, I called to assure you that is I am not behind this. So I called him, but why your name is coming out? He said, because there is a confusion between my name and the name of Sam Basil. But I assured him and told him the church is against such kind of action, and we are very clear that is any person to participate in such kind of movie, he is responsible for his action. And this kind of movie is against the teaching of Christianity and against the teaching of the church. But when I asked the priest of the region, they told me that he for a long time haven't come to the church. We don't know, they don't know about what kind of activities he is doing. He does not have a specific job or business to know up, and so this is what the information which we had the church about him. But of course, when the name of a Coptic Christians came into media, that is raise a concern. That is because not everybody can differentiate between individual action and put it under the community. That's what we are asking the media to be very careful how to be presented, and that's why we are here to emphasize that is an action of one person does not reflect the understanding or the action of the whole community.
Take the question over here.
What kind of affiliation does he have with the U.S. Coptic Christian community, and the things that he say, do you agree with what he says?
Komos Zachariah Botros, he is not a functioning priest in the Coptic Church. About 10 years ago, he resigned from being an active or functioning priest in the Coptic Church, and he started his own work outside the church. He is not under any the restriction of any bishop. We don't know about what he is doing. We are not responsible. Even we don't know where he is. I personally met him long time ago when he was in Brighton in England, and I was visiting there. But I have no contact with him, and we have no responsibility. But what is important is we don't agree on that, because we believe that is to present Christ, we have to present in a positive way, not by attacking the others.
I think Dr. Toot wants to follow up as well.
Yeah, I have a follow-up as long as the name of Mr. Nicole was mentioned. I want to put in record and to the media. We as Muslims wish no hurt for him, and we are against any notion of hurting that person. We are in a country of law and of debate, and this where problems like that should be resolved. We expect that our capable law enforcement will give him full protection. So I am putting that on record. We don't go after people for what they say. They can say whatever they like. We have self-confidence in ourselves, in our religion, in our friends, and in our prophet. To be shook up because the impoliteness of an impolite man. He can say whatever he said, but if he's hiding from us, he's wrong. Hide from somebody else. We are not interested, simply. Yeah.
Do you believe that by bringing the kinds of things that were witnessed in this film trailer, by bringing them into the light, we can look at them and deal with them and have an impact on
Well, sure, but stopping short of giving notoriety to a person or to a work that is not worthy. If anybody have these objections about the religion of Islam, well, come and say, let us talk. And we don't mind talking in public or in front of cameras. But to produce something filthy and say this is the man who is honored and admired by more than 1.5 billion persons on the globe, this is irresponsible, is a very big understatement. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up? As far as the views that are portrayed in the film, Coptic Christians, as I understand, are persecuted in Egypt for their religion. They're a minority. Do you feel that the views that were shown
Sure.
Or you can respond first. I just wanted to know, is it an extremist view amongst the Coptic Christians here in the United States of what was portrayed?
I'm just, the bishop will respond, but I just wanted to make a point. I'm taking an issue with the statement that Copts are persecuted in Egypt. Copts know that they are not. There are sad events committed by ignorant people and sad statements by ignorant, self-proclaimed religious people. But systematic oppression or persecution, I think this is not an accurate statement. I give you the issue.
Yeah, firstly, I want to say there is no justification for making such kind of movies, whatever the circumstances which we are facing in Egypt. Yes, we are facing a lot of difficulties, but the way to respond to it is through working with our brothers and sisters, Muslims in Egypt, as Egyptians together, to face these challenges. Some of them related to what Egypt is facing and all Egyptian is facing. Some of them they are more particular about, like building the churches, the fear which existing among the Copts because of some fanatic leaders who speak against Christian faith, against the Christians in media. Some of the channel which is speaking, which of course that is a create of an atmosphere of a great concern for Christians in Egypt. Some of them, they think the solution is to leave the country. We have many thousands of people who came to the United States after the new events which happened in Egypt. So there are real concerns and real problems, but we the point is how to deal with it, and we believe that is dealing with it is through dialogue, through cooperation, and when we as Egyptians to cooperate with each other, not by attacking each other, insulting each other, because this will not solve the problem. It will increase violence, will lead to violence. Evil will lead to evil. He called me on Thursday morning. It was about 10 o'clock, something like this, in the morning. The call came after a reporter from New York Times called me and asked me about, do you know a name of Nicola Basili Nicola? I said, I don't remember such kind of name, but I can ask. But can you help me by telling me in which region in southern California he is? And she sent me an email saying he is in Cerritos or Long Beach. Why he called me, I don't know. But what he said is, that is, I want to assure you that is, I am not behind it. Whether I believed him or not, I don't know him. And what was important for me is give him as a very clear message, whether he behind it or not. That is, we are against this. This does not reflect the our faith and our belief. Plus, in our churches, all the churches in Southern California, even if when events happen against Christian in Egypt, we speak strongly, but we never give a message of hatred or violence. People come very angry because they heard, and we calm him down. Tell them that is, we believe in God, we believe in His protection, we believe in our country, we believe in the civilization of our country, we believe in the history of being together in our country. That is, we will overcome it. So we never have in our preaching, in our churches, any hatred message. So this person is not, this is his own understanding if he did it, and he was not, definitely not inspired by any teaching in the church.
Did he say who
Sorry?
Did he say who did the film?
His story, for me, what he told me, that is, he said that Sam Basili, this is an Israeli, the story which he mentioned before, he repeated it, and he said that is now they try to avoid any confrontation with Israel. That's why they picked his name. That's what he said. But of course, it proved it was false after that.
Let's go there and then we'll come here.
Sorry? Affect the relationship?
I think it'll ruin the relationship between Muslims and
No, of course it's affect the relationship, but I don't think it's ruin the relationship, because I think the relation is stronger. That, especially there in the Muslim side, there are a lot of very wise leaders like Dr. Hathut, when they know what is the difference, and they know that is such kind of thing, maybe some agenda behind it to create tension and they know that is neither such kind of action, neither the violent reaction will help anybody. And that is the message which we want to give, both of us today, to you and to the world. That is the way we have challenges, we have problems, there are tensions, definitely, we cannot ignore that. But the way to overcome it, this is not by responding to evil by evil, is not responding violence by violence. This will not solve any problem. We have to have wise leaders from both sides to come together and to stop this vicious circle for the sake of our country, for the sake of ourselves, so we can live in peace and we can all focus on the future of our children and of our countries.
Take you in the front.
Yes, we have many leaders from different religions here today. I'd like to know, is it possible to prevent anything like this to happen in the future? Because this is country that values the freedom of expression.
This is a question for me or for Dr. Hathut?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
So it looks like to both. To both of them? Who are you
I
asking?
wanted to learn their opinion from different.
Yeah, both of you.
That is the leaders together to about the freedom of religion, if I understand.
Prevent this from happening again.
How to prevent this from happening again, that is why we agreed that is not only we meet when there is a crisis, but we continue cooperation and dialogue to prevent it from happening, to be more provocative in our action. I think it's done by education. And we have to be to educate our people rightly. Religion is very dear for everyone. And the emotion which moved, religious emotion could be directed in a wrong way. And the role of the leader is to lead the people to have a right understanding for their religion and to avoid that is moving by their religious zeal to do something which against the real teaching of the religion.
Dr. Chu?
Yeah, I concur with what the bishop said, but if you want an answer, is there anything we can do to prevent this in the future? I am not sure, because all what it takes is some irresponsible person to say something very ugly, and then things flare up. What we can do is to offer an alternative kind of reaction. That you react this way, people will die, and economy will be hurt, and people will suffer. You react this way, we can ameliorate the pain and to contain and isolate the focus or the foci of hate that will always be there.
I want to quickly introduce also Father Alexi Smith, who is the Officer for Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs on behalf of the Catholic Archdiocese.
Good morning. I would just like to chime in onto your question. I agree with Dr. Hathut, my colleague and friend, and certainly my colleague and friend, Bishop Serapion. Religious leaders must always emphasize the truth, but preventing these things is difficult. But one way that we can work to prevent them was emphasized by Pope Benedict just this last weekend when he visited Lebanon, where thousands of young people gathered in the square in front of the Maronite Patriarchate, Muslim and Christian youth together, and they were cheering every time he said that we must expand our horizons and work interreligiously together. And the more we do that, as these two religious leaders are doing this morning, the better off we will all be.
We'll take one more, we'll take one more question, and then, yeah, we'll take yours.
Yeah, I think that the episode I have in mind was the Salman Rushdie episode and his book, The Satanic Verses. And unfortunately, the reaction was almost the same, which was a given gift to Salman Rushdie, that his book would have never been read. We have the deja vu or the replay of that episode, and it seems that the mobs did not learn anything from the previous one. Are there other movies? I am sure either there is or there will be. So this is why I'm so much against getting the fits for one movie. As a matter of fact, I'm telling them produce more so that Muslims can get more mad and destroy more things. And this is why we have to be very vigilant. One point was mentioned, and I think the bishop was very kind to put it in a way as a peripheral, whether there are voices in Egypt that is making the life of Copts difficult. Absolutely there is. There is religious leaders who say very nasty things, but we might get some comfort in the fact that they say the same things about us, about those who want a progressive, constructive, inclusive version of Islam that will lead them to hug the fellow citizen and to work with him. They call us all kinds of names. And as I said, it is a mixture of ignorance, malice, and psychological disease.
Thank you all for being here. Just in closing, to acknowledge all of those who came out today, all the faith leaders who all collectively stood together. It takes a lot of courage. His Grace Bishop Serapion and Dr. Hathout, as you've all heard, have been working towards this. But it takes courage to stand up to those who have these extreme narratives and to say we do not agree, but more so that there is no room for extremism and violence, not in LA, not anywhere in the world. So I, again, want to acknowledge their leadership, their courage. I want to thank you all for coming. I know they will be available. If there are any other questions that you'd like to ask later, they will be available. Thank you all.